Well, today is good to get back out on the practice field and get back going. I think our overall energy was good from our players and coaches. Had good meetings Sunday, coming in watching the tape, and everybody's just ready to get back to work. And really the biggest message is we got to stay focused on the things that we can control, and that's how we prepare during the week and how we play and how we execute on game day. That's really what it comes down to. But there's no doubt I believe in this team. I believe in our players. I believe in our coaches. And, we knew this isn't some big surprise. We talked about it before the season started that we had a challenging schedule to start with, right? We could have played some of the teams that other teams played in the non-conference, and we would have the exact same team we have right now, and we would be 3-2. But the message would be that we're so much better, we've turned the corner, and here we go, we're ready to go. And we'd have the same flaws and mistakes that we got to clean up, and the difference is who we played, right? And so I think the message for me to our coaches and to our players is, we got to fix the mistakes. There's no doubt there's mistakes, and we can play better, and that's what our focus has to be on. But let's don't walk around and act like we were favored in all these games, and we've just been losing all these games. I think somebody told me the other day the 4 games that we lost, we were on average a 15-point underdog in all 4 games. So we're disappointed because we didn't play better in some of these. But at the end of the day, we got to keep our perspective and understand that we have 7 more opportunities, and I'm very confident that we're going to see some positive results here over the next half of the season. It doesn't get any easier this week. Watching Cincinnati, there's a very strong chance that this will be the best team that we played up to this point. Watching their defense, I would say there's a chance this could be the best defense that we've faced since I've been here in 2.5 years. And it's pretty incredible to think that they had 9 players drafted off last year's team, and they may be better overall as a team. Coach Fickle and his staff have done an excellent job. They're 26-3 over the last 3 years. Obviously, last year going 13-1 and making the college football playoff, and then again 9 players drafted, third most, second to Georgia and LSU. So pretty strong there. But when you turn on the tape, they've definitely done a great job of replacing the players that left. They have a lot more draft picks that are playing for them right now. Their defense is currently number 1 in the country with the most sacks through 5 games. They have 23 sacks. This is a pretty impressive stat that I don't know that I've ever seen before. If you take their starting 11, right, all the different positions and the starting players, there's 8 players in their starting 11 that all have at least 1 sack on the season. And that's pretty impressive right there. That means they're bringing pressure from a lot of different places. Very physical. Their linebacker, I think, is one of the number 0, Ivan Pace. I think he has to be one of the best linebackers in the country. He's number 1, really big size, great speed. He's got 56 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks on the season so far through 5 games. And so that'll definitely be a challenge. Offensively, they've reloaded there as well. Their new quarterback, Ben Bryant, has thrown for close to 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns in the first 5 games. Their offensive line is huge. They got a really good group up there. I think on average they're about 6'5", 320 up front at the O-line, and then very long and athletic at the skill positions, just like they were last year, running back, tight end, receiver. I'd say just overall the team size at every position. Their linebackers are in the 240 to 235 range all the way across the board, and then just their team speed really shows up. So they've done a great job of recruiting and developing their guys, so it'll be a big challenge for us. And really, what we're talking about again for this week is controlling what we can control, and that's how we show up in the meetings and looking for opportunities and ways to get better, to improve. And that's what we did Sunday. Going back watching the video Sunday, there's a lot of things. Number 1, give credit to East Carolina. That's a very veteran team, and their quarterback receivers played extremely well. They executed very well. But there's a lot of things that we did not do well that also led to some of that success. And the other side is we also can't throw away the baby with the bathwater and just say, well, we lost the game and everything was just horrible and the world's coming to an end. I talked about 3 plays, right? We gave up 4 touchdowns versus man coverage, right? And 3 of them were versus third corners that were in the game there, and they got to play better, and we got to coach them better. But we gave up 4 touchdowns versus man coverage. If we give up 3 instead of 4, right, and a lot of those were on 3rd and 4th down, right? If we can defend one of those better than we did, right, that's one less touchdown they have, right? So that's one play. And then let's take the 2 series that we have inside the 5-yard line. Right there in the first half, 1st and goal at the 5. Gary's going in to score. The guy comes around, knocks the ball out. We fumble it. We get no points there. The last drive offensively, we're going down to score, get 5 plays inside the 5. We think we get over the pylon. We don't score there. Well, that's 14 points. So take away 7 of theirs and add 14 of ours, and all of a sudden now we're leading the game by 1 with 8 minutes to go. And so it didn't feel that way. At halftime, it didn't feel like there was any chance. And so that's the message to our guys is, man, the margin for error is very small. And even in games where we're not playing our best, especially defensively there, in the passing game and really struggling offensively, not getting off to what we needed to in the first half, even with all that going on, we had opportunities to be right there in the game. And, like I said, if we score right there on the last drive, we're down 13 with 8:30 left. We're probably going to go on an onside kick. You get the ball, and you got a chance right there. So I think we got to take the good and the bad from that and learn from it and move forward. That's all we can do. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Is there one area that you can pinpoint from fall camp to week 5 that you guys have had consistent development in, that you've seen improvement in since the start of the year?
Yeah. I would say the number one thing is our guys haven't quit, and I think it's easier to quit more than ever. You saw yesterday all over Twitter, people all over the country, season's not going the way they want to, and I'm out. I'm taking my 4 games, and I'm going home. And you think about what these guys have been through this year, and these seniors have been through the last 4 years, it's easy to quit, right? And the thing I told the guys after practice, one of the best things that we're doing right now is we're showing up each and every day no matter what happens. So from a big picture perspective, I would say that. As far as things that we're improving in, I felt like we improved in our passing game from the beginning to where we are, right? We had, 3 touchdowns and over 250-something yards. You go back to, Devin Leary at NC State, pretty good quarterback, and, he didn't have the day that Gary had there. So I think, that shows you a little bit about East Carolina's skill in the secondary, and it was good to see improvement in that area. Defensively, really, up until this last game, we haven't really given up the deep ball touchdowns that really plagued us last year, and that was the frustrating part, on Saturday is, giving those up, because that had been something through 4 games against some good teams that had good wideouts and good quarterbacks that we hadn't really seen. And, we obviously had some injuries there, and they took advantage of it, and we got to coach those guys to be able to play better there. But improvement-wise on defense, I would definitely say this past week stopping the run. They had a really good offensive line, good running backs, and they ran the ball 30 times. It wasn't like it was just because they could, throw it like they wanted to. Obviously, they had a lot of success in the air, but they tried to run it. They ran it 30 times, and we gave up 110 yards, 40 at halftime, and that's the fewest yards that they had rushing all season long. So I think those are some positives. I think, quite honestly, and again, I've never, you guys have been around me here for 2.5 years. I've never been one to come in and lead with excuses or anything like that. I know we brought up on Thursday or Friday about injuries, and I didn't even want to give that excuse before it started. But also the reality is we were without 11 guys that have started for us, on Saturday. And we're not a good enough team. I don't know if anybody's a good enough team to take 11 starters off your team. I think it was 5 guys on defense, and it was Greer, Day-Day, Yates, T.J. Robinson, and then A.B. went down early. Matt Hill went down a little bit later. Then offensively, Dono, obviously, Kelly Joyner, Jaron Mangum, O.D. wasn't able to go, and Latrell Williams. And then, obviously Stokes had a hamstring too. So I think, you got to take all of that into consideration as we're looking at it. It's very easy to say, man, look at our record. We're not doing what we want to do. We just need to blow it all up and start over. But that would be a mistake to do because at the end of the day, we are seeing progress. And, hey, we know it's a process, right? I mean, I knew when I took the job that I was taking a very challenging rebuild. I knew that coming in. And, as you're going through this process, the last thing that usually comes, part of the process, is those on-the-field results, right? And we're all frustrated by that, but we also understand that we definitely have seen a lot of progress and a lot of the other things that we're doing, and I'm confident that as this season goes and we get some of these guys back here over the next few weeks, that we're going to have a chance to play much better.
What do you have to do to start some of these games better? Because you look at BYU, Louisville,
Yeah.
East Carolina.
You know,
first half is doomed you each time.
Yeah, I've looked at that, and can we play better in the first half? Yes. I've studied that as much as I possibly can. Everything that we're doing in pregame, everything that we're doing at the hotel is exactly what I know and the blueprint that I've been given and seen been successful. Quite honestly, I think that they've played better. Those teams have played better than we have, and they executed better than we did. And again, that's not what anybody wants to hear. They want to hear that we haven't been feeding them a pregame meal or something, and now we're going to feed them a pregame meal and they're going to play better. But the reality is, there's nobody sleepwalking out there. I mean, I would say the BYU, that was a weird dynamic, right? Being in the locker room for 2.5 hours and kind of shooting your fireworks off maybe a little bit too early before the game started or whatever. But really, these other games, the guys have been locked in. They've been focused. We've just got out-executed, out-played, out-coached in the first half. And then in the second half, quite honestly, the other team gets up. They probably relax a little bit. We get pissed off, and then we go play a little better. That's probably a little bit of the reality too. But there's nothing that I've seen, any big thing that we're going to be able to turn over some new leaf and go out there. And ultimately, it comes down to executing and doing the things required to win. And those other good teams have done those things better than we have in the first half so far this season.
Would you consider taking the ball regardless?
We did. We did that against Howard, and we went a double move and threw an interception. And then they got the ball and went down and scored, I believe. So, I think to me, each week we kind of think through that. To me, I think the advantage of having the ball in the third quarter is a really big advantage. I mean, all these games you're going into, you're trying to figure out a little bit of what they're doing, how they're going to play you. I mean, you got new coordinators going against new coordinators, new players, all that. And, I think, if you look at the Louisville game, we went out there, they got the ball first, and we had a chance for an interception, right? And we don't make the catch, which we need to make the catch. If we make the catch, we get the ball, maybe we go score, and that game's different, right? So regardless, you're going to have to play offense and defense. For me right now, where we are, a lot of the times I lean on having that ball in the third quarter to start it off. But week to week, that could change based off where we're playing or who we're playing.
Jeff, you said a couple minutes ago that there's people who want to,
Yeah.
who want to blow this whole
Yeah.
thing. What's your message to them who look at the results and look at the win-loss record
Yeah.
and say that you're not getting it done?
Yeah, I would say number one, I can understand their frustration. Their frustration is not just from the last 3 years; it's really over the last 12 years, right? And that's part of some of the stuff we're dealing with. Just quite honestly, I mean, there's been a lot of turnover in the last 12 years within our program, and so that foundation, is what we're trying to build. And at the end of the day, whenever I got the job here, I was the 5th head coach in 12 years. We'd had 3 ADs and 3 presidents, and so what you get is just kind of, trying to pick up the pieces a little bit and put them all in place. But at the end of the day, I feel very confident in our plan of what we're doing. I feel like we've got great alignment and vision, and we have a plan with what we're doing with the program and facilities and these things that aren't going to pay off until years down the road. Some of these people we're playing, they did that years down the road, and those have paid off for them now, right? So from that perspective, we're starting that process, and we'll see that down the road. But from our team perspective, it's each and every day how you show up and how you do what you do. And I would just say that at the end of the day, I would ask our fans to continue to support these players because, number one, these players chose the University of South Florida. They had other choices. They chose to come here. Number two, they've chose to stay here. They've had plenty of opportunities for those guys to go quit and just say, hey, it just didn't work out and walk away. And then also I know each and every day those guys are showing up hungry with an attitude to come to work hard, and get better. And I just ask that our fans continue to support our players, because we need everybody. I mean, nobody likes where we are, but it's we're not going to get to where we want to go just by continuing to push reset. I mean, you can go look at the last 4 head coaches that have been here. They've been successful at other places they've been. So this isn't something that this is not a program that you can just come in 2 years and change a few things and all of a sudden you're winning 11 games. I mean, this is truly a process. And like I said, I knew that. I was told very clearly by Michael Kelly and our leadership that it was going to be a process and going to take a while. And they were committed to doing that, and that's exactly what we're doing. But I think it's a combination of a lot of things, right? It's a combination of a tough schedule, and it's a combination of being banged up and injured, and it's a combination of not quite playing very well, right? And what do you do when you don't play well? You go back to work. And I told our team, I was listening to Tom Brady's podcast that he does with who does he do that with? Jim Gray. It's a great Let's Go podcast. I listen to it each week. And a week ago, Tom was on there talking about their first 3 games and how they kind of been slow offensively. And I think he said that, their first 3 games, they had 36 offensive drives and they scored 3 offensive touchdowns. And number one, that just blew me away, right? And because if you're not careful, you kind of live in this building. It's kind of like we're the only one that struggle. We're the only one that don't have. But at the end of the day, what he said on there, it's about how do you get out of that? Is you show back up to work. And it's your meeting time, it's your walkthrough, it's your practice, and it's individual improvement becomes team improvement, right? And that's just such a great message, because that's exactly, what we're telling our guys, and eventually that's going to show. And I believe that 100%. I know myself, our staff, and our players are working tirelessly and to find a way to get it done, and that's what we're committed to do.
Looking towards Cincinnati a little bit, I thought Ben Bryant has done such a great job of replacing Desmond Ritter so far, but that offense has changed a little bit because Ben's obviously not as mobile as Desmond was. Just,
right.
How have you seen that change in studying that
film? There's probably 10 to maybe 15% of change where they're not running him quite as much as they did with Ritter. But a lot of their concepts and they're going to take shots. They're very aggressive down the field. They have really good, like I said, really good speed at wide out. And then they've got a really good run scheme that goes with that and makes the defense kind of have to be in that middle ground of guessing what they're going to do, throwing the ball or running the ball. But, yeah, if you just kind of blurred out the numbers and the names, it looks very, very similar. Other than I would say that the defense probably is better this year than where they were last year. And they were incredible last year, but it's pretty impressive when you watch them on tape.
We certainly saw what Jimmy Horn could bring to your offense.
Yeah.
Now he's healthy. Just speak about his development and just all the things you have at your disposal, ways to deploy him, ways he can affect the game.
Right, and that's kind of, I know we talked a lot about Gary, and Gary's continuing to improve, and I thought he played better. But it's also, Gary played a lot better when Jimmy and Weaver were back, right? Kind of all those things, go together. And but yeah, it was good to. Those guys have been kind of working back through some injuries, and to be able to have Jimmy back. Obviously he's one of the top playmakers on our team, and one play, 91 yards. And it's hard if you have to drive the ball, 10 and 12 plays every time for every touchdown that you get. You need those big play threats, and Jimmy brings that. He works really hard at practice. It's important to him, just seeing his maturity from where he was a year ago. And I'm hoping he can continue to stay healthy and be a big factor for us.
As a guy who's been around a lot of great receivers, what do you see from him in terms of how he approaches his craft and the skill set?
Yeah, well, number one, he's just got a really good burst. I think some of the best receivers that I've seen, especially kind of his body type, are guys that can put their foot in the ground and change direction, right? And back whenever I was a walk-on receiver at Clemson a long time ago, it'd take me about three steps before I could, go one way. And those great wideouts can be running full speed, put their foot in the ground, and go the other way. So that's one thing, that he has that change of direction. And then he also has really good top-end speed. Got good hands. And then, again, like I was saying, he's just got a good knowledge. He studies. He wants to know more than just sometimes as young receivers, it's kind of, what do I do on that route? All right, I run here 10 yards and turn in and look for the ball. And he wants to know, all right, what coverage are they going to be in? If the guy's playing outside leverage, how can I stem it a little different? If he's inside leverage, what do I need to do? And kind of that next level, going from kind of pre-algebra to algebra 1, algebra 2. He asked a lot of those kind of questions in meetings and on the field.
Jeff, as far as players that missed the ECU game, do you see any of them coming back for?
Hopeful. We still got a good number of guys down. We won't really know until later on in the week. Some guys were able to do a few things. Trying to think if I can think of anybody that for sure. We're hopeful that DeQuan Evans may be able to get back. Today was his first day practicing, and again, that corner position has been one where we got banged up and kind of got depleted there pretty quick, and so hopefully he can be back and be able to give us something this week. And the other guys, I would say, I don't want to speak too early in case they're not able to come back, but there's probably 6 or 8 guys that are in that gray area, whether they'll be able to come back. And Kelly Joyner's still probably a week away. That was one probably everybody. The good news is Kelly is out running and doing some stuff. He got the boot off last week, and if his scans go well this week, then there's a chance that he'll be able to start practicing next week and maybe potentially play against Tulane.
Jeff, how do you evaluate your performance this year, you personally?
Number one, you got to look at your record, right? You are what your record is, so that's not a good grade right there. I would say I've done a good job of continuing to show up and keep everybody moving in the right direction. I think if we didn't have a good culture, I think you'd see a lot of guys jumping ship. And our guys continue to show up every day. They continue to believe in what we're doing, and that's the way that we're going to continue moving forward. As far as in-game decisions and those type of things, we're using an analytics group that most people out there use, and I look forward to every Sunday. I kind of get their grade report back and all that on 4th downs and timeouts and these type of things, and I don't feel that that's been too big of an issue there. We need to be closer in some of these games so that we have more of those kind of decisions at the end of the game. But I think ultimately my report card is going to be here by the end of the year, and we'll know a little bit more after we have a chance to play our entire schedule and really get off. And like I said, again, not making excuses, but it is reality. If our non-conference schedule, which was determined 5 years ago, they didn't know maybe where we would be as a program 5 years later. If that was a little bit different than it is right now, we're 3-2 and everybody's high-fiving and feeling great, and here we go. And we really would be the exact same team that we are today. And so when you agree to play some of those teams, you have to realize that if you're not quite there as a program and all that, that record may not look real pretty, at the beginning. But ultimately, I didn't take the job to go just for a couple of those non-conference games. It's really to get our program to have a foundation that ultimately we haven't had in the last 12 years for sustainable success. At the end of the day, it just takes somebody having a good plan. Again, all I'm doing is what I know and what I've seen work at some other places that have been successful. And I think a lot of the things that we've been able to do within our building and on the practice field and all that have shown some growth. And unfortunately, the last stage of that growth process is the results on the field. And so until we have the results on the field, my grade's not going to be very good. And I'm going to continue to show up every day and continue doing the things required and finding ways for us to improve as a team to be able to get better.
Looking at those 2 drives inside the 5 against East Carolina that
Yeah.
you guys weren't able to finish between the fumble in the
Yeah.
first quarter and the last drive, obviously, if Jared Mangum's healthy, the play
Right.
seems to be give it to him. Would be using, maybe a guy like Jason Albritton down the depth chart a little bit, but still that big stocky power back, would
Right.
be useful to you guys?
Yeah, that definitely could be. I think if you number one, going back to specifically what you're talking about, we had a great call, right? Zone read, and I think he's probably going to score if he doesn't fumble, or we're going to be able. And then if you go back to the 2 previous times down there, we had nice schemes, and the quarterback walked in untouched. And so when you get down there that next time, you're kind of thinking the same things, right? It's the hindsight right afterwards. You're like, okay, we did all that and it didn't work. Now what would we do, right? And I definitely think we're missing Jaron for, last year he was kind of that guy for us that was able to get us in the end zone, and we're hopeful to be able to get him back at some point. And then, there's definitely a chance for All-Britain maybe that he could end up being that guy a little bit. But there really weren't any pictures on those plays where it was a smaller back, not getting in. It was more of an athletic play to the pylon. It was, 50-50, and then, the quarterback, the guy coming from behind him, and he's got to have that ball a little bit higher and tighter, not to let it get out.
Jeff, there was a time, probably a generation ago, Bear Bryant could get his people in a room and get the message, and it was very insulated.
Yeah.
Obviously, we live in a different world, not only for players, but coaches, for all of us, messages coming from all over the place. How do you deal with that when it's not going good, when there's slings and arrows going everywhere? Yeah,
well, the first thing I do is, and I tell our players to do the same thing, is you got to protect what you let in your mind, right? I think it was Gandhi said, don't let anybody walk through your mind with their dirty feet, right? And so it's harder than ever, right? Because everybody has the cell phones, and especially our players, man, they're on those things all the time because that's just a way of life. For me personally, I don't get on social media, which is probably a good thing right now during the season. I'm really, we have communication and stuff with recruits, but I don't look at any of that during the season. And, so I think it's easier for coaches to kind of be insulated because you're really just in the office and then you go home. You're in the office and you go home. For the players, they're going out to class, right, and seeing their classmates and out, and they have their families and friends and everybody texting them from what they've seen in games and these things. And then, again, they live in their social media world. So the message to our guys is, let's make our decisions and our mindset based on what we know is the truth. Let's watch the video. Let's don't hide it. Let's talk about the bad. Let's talk about the good, right? And then that's where we're going to live. And you got to eliminate the clutter and the distractions. And I've heard it said before, and I talk to our team all the time, everybody has this negative dog on one side and this positive dog on the other. And the one you feed the most is the one that gets the largest. So our players, they're getting plenty of negative, right, outside of our building. So if they come to us and all we give to them, we're going to call out the mistakes and what they are and talk about them and demand that we get it better. But if all we do is talk negative to them, then, they really don't have much of a hope, right? So we've got to coach them hard, but we also have to encourage them and to continue doing what they're doing, because that's the only way that we're going to get to where we want to go. I mean, the easiest thing, it's more easy now in today's society than ever just to quit and to say, man, it didn't go my way, and quit. And I just told our players, and one thing I commend them on, they haven't. Because once you quit one time, then it becomes easier to quit the next time. Now when you're, your family and things aren't going well, it's easy just to quit, right? And so there's something about sticking to, and there's nobody that's accomplished anything great by quitting just because it got hard or people telling them that they should. But now I believe just showing up every day and not quitting, that's a competitive advantage because so many other people do quit whenever it gets hard, right? So that's the big message is, hey, control what you let inside, and let's make sure that we're talking about everything in here, and that our messaging in here is factual. It's about the truth, and because it's so easy to get caught up in the extremes, right, and just judging our entire season and everything that we've done just based off a record, right? And if we did that, then there's not a lot of encouragement for the guys. We got to look behind that and see the opportunities that we have, so when we do improve, what we can do, and that's ultimately the only way that we're going to get to where we want to go.
So what is the truth about where this program and where this team is right now?
Yeah, well, I pretty much have already said that, but I can rephrase it for you. The truth is, we have not played well enough to upset the strong teams that we played in our schedule, being 15, 16, whatever point underdog in all those games. We haven't played at a high enough level to go earn those victories versus teams that are really, really good. And the other truth is, we've been injured. And everybody has to deal with that at different times of the season. Hopefully, this is kind of our early time at the beginning of the season. We get everybody back, And that's part of the truth too, right? We're not going to use it as an excuse. Right? We as coaches got to get our backups ready to play better, and our backups got to go out there and play better, right? That's the other part of the truth, right? And but whenever you watch the film, you go over the good, bad, and the ugly. Here's what we did well, right? And here's what we can build off of. Here's what we didn't do well. This is what we got to correct. And then this is the really bad stuff that can't ever happen again. And you're not going to fool your players. I mean, these guys are 18 to 31 years old, right? You're not going to fool these guys. And so if you go in there and you just try to throw out a bunch of stuff to try to trick them, they're going to look right through that. And that's one thing that I would say. Hopefully our guys know that I've been very genuine and real in my assessment of where we are each week. And I think that's one reason that our guys continue to show up. If there was ever time for our group to quit, it would be down 41-7 coming off of the week before at Louisville, and you're playing in somebody else's stadium after you've been away for a week, right? And then they came back, right, and the defense held East Carolina to 7 points, which is the fewest they've given up in the second half, or the fewest that East Carolina scored in the second half all season. The offense came back and scored on 3 of the 4 drives and should have scored on the 4th drive, right? And so those are the little signs along the way that you see as a coach that even though we haven't got the final result that we want, we're trending, and we're going to get there as long as they continue to do that. So that's what I believe the truth is, and I believe the other part of the truth is we have an alignment in vision and goals between the administration from the top down that is probably greater than it's been at any point in the program history. And I think some of the programs that are ahead of us probably had that consistency in the alignment from the president to the AD to the head coach and the facilities and all those things. They did that 10 and 15 years ago, and they're reaping that success right now. And so that's the other part too, that we can't do anything about the past, but we can do things about the future. And now we are. I mean, this indoor, we're hoping to get in that next month, right? And then we talked about the stadium and all these things. So we're kind of building everything up, and a kind of a new foundation in a lot of areas all at the same time. And it's like when you're building a house, it's ugly for the first long part of it, and then all of a sudden, at the very end, that's when they start bringing in the tile and start bringing in the granite and all that, and now it kind of takes shape. And building a football program and all that is not much different. I mean, I think great example, look at Kentucky, right? What Coach Stoops has done there. First 3 years, not a winning season, right? And in today's society, 2.5 years, they're pushing reset, right? Well, I'm sure they're pretty glad they held on, because now they've done things they've never done in their program history. And really, you can go back and look at a lot of programs that eventually came out of. There's certain programs that maybe they've had a lot of success, and then maybe 1 or 2 years they were down, and a coach can go in there and turn that around pretty quick. But when you go into a place that hasn't had sustainable success, over their history, and there's not that overall investment and resource and facility and consistency within coaching staff. I mean, it's not to mention how many OCs and DCs have we had in 12 years. How many position coaches have our players had over the last 5 years? There's nobody can sustain that and just, snap your fingers and all of a sudden everybody's, going against really good teams. All this stuff kind of all plays into one. So I think, for us, nobody is, excited about where we are. Everybody, coaches, players are frustrated, and we want to see the results right now. And that's okay. You need to be, and you need to use that as fuel when you show up to improve and do the things that you can control. And eventually, that's when it'll turn.
It gave me a lot of confidence because I had just got back from my injury. So, the whole time I've really been hungry, waiting to get back out there on the field. But I kind of already, had a good feeling that I was going to go out there and do good because, the hungry building up inside of me had me ready to go out there and play.
What was it like for you those 2 weeks? I know Florida, you got in, but not really touching the ball, and then you didn't play. Those 2 weeks of nothing. How frustrated were you, and how eager were you to get back on the field?
I was real eager to get back on the field because, I don't like just sitting and watching the game. And, then on the side, I see stuff that I can help out with. But, Florida game, I was just kind of in and out. and like I ain't really had no good impact as I know I could for sure. But they were just trying to put me in there so I could like draw attention. But like being out the other 2 games, it just really made me hungry. Like I said, that's about it.
Was that 91-yard touchdown, did that feel pretty similar to the one you had against Cincinnati last year?
Yeah, it did.
What was the, what was the play and, kind of what you felt going through it?
It was a previous play. Man, 7 was out there arguing with each other. I told them, like, I'm about to score, like, right now when the ball come my way. And they just so happened to call that play because I thought it was going to be like a post route, but they called it a slant instead. So I caught it, and I just knew wasn't nobody going to catch me.
When you're talking to a guy like that, does it take away from feeling hurt? Because you didn't look hurt at all when you sprinted up there.
Oh, nah.
You completely help me now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little piece.
Let me ask you, after the second touchdown, when you went up to get it, it looked like you high-fived the referee. Was that true? Did you say something? How would you high-five you?
Nah, I don't think the ref said nothing. He probably was laughing. I ain't really see him because I thought he was Z. So I tried to hurry up and high-five him. But I was like, oh, it's not tripping it. Because they was calling my name like, J5, J5. Then I turned around and shut Z up.
So Jimmy, when you look at last year and you had productive moments last year, how big of a difference is it from being a freshman to a sophomore now? How much more confident and polished do you feel as a player?
I feel way better as a player. Like, the game has slowed down for me a lot. So, like, I can see things out there better on the field and just play smarter.
When you look at kind of just the program as a whole since you've been there, how's it gotten better?
It's like a confidence thing. Like, players get more confident in a little piece. Like, we still got to build that confidence, but as like the program building, I see like players starting to get more confident.
Jimmy, in the second half against ECU, the offense came out, and you guys seemed to be free and easy. You guys were rolling downhill, doing pretty much what you wanted to do. As good as it was to see, and I know ECU's playing things differently too, given the lead they had at the half, but when you're seeing the success you had in the second half, are you guys wondering, okay, why can't we do this in the first half? And was there some frustration there and saying, well, why is it taking us a while to get going? And I know you've had some injuries too and all that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of frustration do build up inside like that first half. Like, why can't we start fast the same way we do in the second half? And I think some of that stuff play out in practice. Like, we got to come out quicker. Like, if we come out fast, the same way we do in the second half, we'll be able to beat a lot of teams because defense get the roll and offense get the roll. As you can see, like, defense start ECU almost the whole game. They only put up 7 points second half. They had how many they had in the first quarter? First half, 41. Yeah, that's all they had ever since, like, until like fourth quarter. I think they scored. But if we start out fast, we'll be good.
Coach Scott talked highly about the Cincinnati defense. Obviously, no Sauce Gardner, no Kobe Bryant this year for them, but just, what have you seen on film from some of their corners and DBs?
I had watching film and stuff. We had watched like at least 100 plays. They run a lot of man coverage because they feel that they just better than everybody. So they go out there and play man. They go mix up some coverages and stuff like that. But I mean, anybody can be beat. So I don't see none of that.
Yeah, you certainly showed showed Gardner last year on the 80-yarder. Just how much confidence does that give you to see him in the NFL now and scoring on him like that?
I mean, that gives me a lot of confidence because like knowing like how many players went to the league on their team last year, like 12. There's a lot of them players out there. They ain't got that same defense no more, but they still pretty good. But you just can't put nothing past anybody. Like, they just go out there and let you do this and that. So I don't take nobody easy. That's how I feel. I'm out there on that field.
Coach Jimmy was saying that sometimes receivers, they'll just want to know, okay, what's my route? Where do I get the ball? But he said you look at different things. You study. You want to know what the defense is doing, how to play off a DB. You try to make it into a real study. How do you approach it? How do you break things down, and what's important to you to know as you prepare for a game?
See, like I was saying, like my last year, my freshman year, I just go out there and play. I really ain't watch film for real. See, this year I started watching a little bit more film. So, like, I go in there and look at the DB's hips and be like, okay, he can't come out his breaks that quick if I do a curl route or something. He can't guard this double move if I do this, So I just look at them details and I just use it in the game.
Why that's happening?
I'll say in some areas it's probably, a lack of confidence. I feel like some guys, weren't as confident as they were, now at this point in the season. Not starting off how we wanted to, that kind of, put everybody, I ain't gonna say everybody, but it put people, in the mindset that, maybe this not gonna go, how we planned on it, how we planned on the season going, but, really though, it was just lack of focus, lack of confidence, everybody just, I don't feel like everybody was locked in, I feel like we just had the mindset that, oh, okay, well, we preach about, winning this and doing this, so I felt like everybody had the mindset that we can just go out there and it was just going to happen, rather than, reality hitting us in the face and realize it's going to be a dogfight, the whole season in order to get to where we want to be, so that's what I say.
The message that we had, kind of been getting from everybody is that you guys have just been playing a lot better in practice than you have in games. Is that something you feel too?
Yeah, for sure. I noticed in practice, we're starting to have a lot more, leadership on the defensive side of the ball, at least. A lot more guys, stepping up, saying stuff to other guys, making sure, we finish plays, run to the ball, attack the ball, try to strip the ball, get strip attempts, picks, everything like that. So I feel like that's helped us, grow this season because after each game we realize, how much it means to us and how important it is. So I felt like, the practices just got even better as the weeks progressed throughout the season so far.
Seems like you've been the one guy that's been pretty much the same spot all year because you've had injuries and people have had to play sometimes at different positions. How difficult has that been? I know not in your case, but around you as far as the secondary and adapting to that.
I say it's been, kind of I guess you could say a struggle, I guess. Some guys not used to playing, them other positions. They was, all camp, all summer, they was locked in on one position. And then, like you said, somebody goes down, now you got to move to the other side and stuff like that. So, I felt like it probably has hurt us in specific situations, but, it hasn't, brought us down as a defensive, or anything because, we still continue, to play better week by week as we move those guys around and, had those injuries. So.
And I'm not asking for an injury update on day, but what would it mean if he does return, when he does return?
It would actually mean a lot. He's a big part of our defense. Believe it or not. Other people might think otherwise, but being in that corner room with him and the knowledge that he has of the game, and just the IQ in general, he's a big part. That we definitely missing. But he battling an injury right now, so he just got to take the time and recover and get his body right. So. Yes, sir.
Cincinnati, what are some of the challenges their offense poses?
I'll say they have, good receivers, slot receivers, outside receivers. They got, good speed, good releases. They know how to attack the ball well. So, as far as our end, we just got to play with good technique, good confidence, and, everything should be able to go smoothly. So.
What are some areas you think this team has gotten better at since the first snap of the season?
One area I could say something as simple as, getting lined up. I don't know if you guys watched the BYU game, but on the defensive side, we was taking a long time, to get lined up. They were, about to snap the ball. We still looking at the sideline, So I felt like being that we took pride in that, that helped us, further on in the season that we're at now. And as far as a team, I feel like the offense, they gained more confidence than they had week one. I felt like week one, like I said, they went out there and thought it was just going to happen and everything like that. But, they realized that, it's going to take some work. It's going to take some, some grit to actually, get the results we want. So I felt like, their confidence is continuing to build as the season progresses.
It looks like, just kind of looking at some advanced stats here that you, you haven't allowed a ton of catches, and especially when, you do maybe give up a catch, there's not very many yards after, the quick to make a tackle. Just how important is that to you to be able to stop those guys, without getting upfield and making a quality?
That's really important to me, especially as a DB. Obviously I don't want them to catch the ball, but it's going to happen. We could be in the zone or something like that. He might, catch a little curl route or something like that. But one of my season goals for me though, you know, is to not let up any touchdowns. So, you know, if I do give up a catch, like, you know, I'm mad about it, but not really. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of that next play mentality, you know. But I definitely pride on that, you know, and making sure, you know, once they do make that catch or whatever, that, you know, I make that tackle because, you know, at the end of the day, that's a stat for me. You know what I'm saying? That's putting my team in a better situation. So.
And, you know, I would imagine has been the most that you've played, you know, in your college career.
Yeah.
And obviously an increased, you know, role in snap counts. Just, you know, how have you been handling that load, you know, on your body and, you know, trying to, you know, manage that from a health standpoint?
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like I've been managing it pretty well, more than I expected, for sure. You know, like throughout the spring and the summer, like that's kind of what I was thinking about. You know, like how my body was gonna feel and how was I gonna do, because, you know, I haven't played a full game for real since probably my senior year of high school. You know, until I got here, so I was kind of, you know, worried about that. But I felt like, you know, everything going good. I kind of pride myself on getting treatment and recovery, you know, to prevent those, you know, minor injuries and, you know, soft tissue stuff like that. So I won't have to sit out and miss any games. So I feel like it's going pretty well.
I know you don't have to guard him in games, but maybe in practice. But Jimmy Horn, obviously a weapon for this team as a DB. You look at him as a receiver. What do you see that would concern you, and how do you, you know, what kind of a weapon do you think he is for this team?
Yeah, well, I don't really guard him too much because, you know, he'd be in the slot. But if I were, I mean, my perspective on him, I mean, if you know, you know, like, you know what I'm saying, he's probably the fastest kid we got on the team, you know, if not the fastest. Like, so, you know, just seeing him, you know, line up across from me, it's kind of that mindset, like, all right, like, I got to lock in, you know, like, I got to play with good technique, good feet, because if he catch you slipping, it's over with, you know. So that's just kind of how I view him, at least.
I mean, is he one cut? You just
Yeah, pretty much, though. He going to outrun you. He going to make one cut, and it's a foot race after that. So, I mean, I hope you know how to run. So. I hope you fast.
Problem if you can't, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What about overall confidence for you and the team? As you know, you haven't gone off to the start you wanted to. You got 7 more games left.
Yeah.
Pushing forward through that. I know you're used to it in football, but how do you do it? How do you lock in each week and keep pushing?
Yeah. As far as confidence for myself, I would say, it's a mindset. You know, like, I feel like, yeah, the season's not going how it goes, but if you come in every day with like, oh, the season not going well, you know what I'm saying, like with the I guess you could say feeling sorry for yourself, you know what I'm saying, because you're not getting the results you want, then you going to continue to lack, you know what I'm saying, in specific areas, rather than coming in every day, you know, trying to get better, you know, wanting to learn more, wanting to do better, wanting to, you know what I'm saying, get recovery and stuff like that. I feel like, you know, that would uplift your confidence, you know, throughout the week, each week. But as a team, I'll say it's pretty good, though. You know, I feel like people are starting to buy in and actually realize, you know, that we have to respond the right way, you know what I'm saying, rather than, okay, we take a loss. We can't just come in, you know, moping around, heads down, feeling sorry about last Saturday. Like, it's a new week, you know what I'm saying, new opportunity, new team. So it's kind of like a fresh slate, you know, each week.